Eli and Harper barely recognize him. I'm Alec Morgan. I run Morgan Sentinel Security in Denver. My wife of 8 years, Sienna, said this to Logan Pierce, a man I once considered a friend. I heard it through my system, not through the wall. The microphone in the hotel lamp picked up every word. Four Seasons, Denver. Room 2109. Sienna had a sparkling diamond bracelet on her wrist, the kind I didn't pay for. The $18,700 gift was bought when Logan took $27,500 out of our joint account. What did I hear? Sienna laughed as she said that my children had a hard time recognizing me. Logan added, after you divorce him, they'll see their father for who he really is, invisible. Sienna murmured her agreement. We'll help them understand the truth. 8 years of marriage. 11 years in the Air Force. A company that started with $62,000 and a laptop and grew to $2.8 million a year. And these two thought they could take everything away from me and show my kids who I was from scratch. I wanted to help you make the connection. I left the Air Force in 2014. I wasn't burned out, I was just ready to translate my obsession with reading patterns to the private sector. I built Morgan Sentinel Security in my spare room, a laptop, a folding table, and a white board with arrows pointing to risks no one had seen yet. Companies pay good money for someone who thinks like the bad guys and fights on the side of the good guys. Because optimists can change the world, but it's the paranoid ones who survive. I met my wife Sienna Whitfield at a fundraiser for the Rocky Mountain Children's Foundation. She was 29, I was 33. She walked around the room like she owned the place, copper-toned hair, a fearless smile and questions that fell on you like a searchlight. He was developing luxury housing in the city center, explaining micro-markets and air rights like a favorite song. First date? Guard and Grace. I tried to look cool, he ordered Barolo without looking at the label. The bill was $260. There should have been a warning, I thought it was momentum. We moved fast. In 6 months his shoes were by my door, his emails in my living room. At the end of a year, I proposed with a 3-carat stone that took her breath away. The price of the ring was like 2 months of oxygen. The wedding was just the way she wanted it, 200 guests, an orchestra playing without a break and a ballroom that glows as if dipped in bright paint. I paid for it all, I had the means and I wanted to make it feel like we were building something real. The first years, it was like we had cracked the code of life. The business took off, Sienna was closing on penthouses with mountain views. We bought a 4-bedroom house in Cherry Creek for $1.15 million, an Audi and a Tesla on the doorstep, passport stamps twice a year. The designs on it were like some people's self-esteem. He used to tell his friends, he's the guy companies call when there's a fire. I liked the compliment. By 2016, the money was finally hearing me. The team, the contract clients and the waiting list. Sienna said she wanted to have children. Eli came first, March 15, 3:24 a.m. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, lungs like a siren. Harper 12 minutes later, 6 pounds, 2 ounces, quiet as snow. Perfect and opposite, like two halves of a plan finally falling into place. The twins adapted me. I didn't slow down, I sharpened. Bigger contracts, longer shifts, tougher problems. All with their names in the title. Sienna would bring coffee late at night, massaging my shoulders as if she were solving problems. She would tell the family group with great gusto that I was the man who was drilling concrete for our family. And for a while, I truly believed we were on the same team. By 2018, the trajectory of our marriage had changed. Sienna's phone used to light up with client messages and project photos, now it was silent when I entered the room. Sentences were incomplete, I'm just tired, she would say, but that tiredness was like a line on repeat. He started going to exhibition openings, social aid invitations, real estate negotiations alone. When I would ask, why wasn't I invited, he would wear his classic serious smile. You can't get away from your work, Alec, one of us has to keep the social life alive and balanced. That's when Logan Pierce came into our lives. Sienna introduced him as her business partner, a 36-year-old, single, attractive man in a fine suit. He drove a dark navy blue BMW M5, and when he talked about the market, he always sounded like he was at the winning table. He was the kind of person who immediately endeared himself to people. I liked him too, at first. His relaxed confidence made you neglect to check the exit doors. Sienna told me that she and Logan were working together on a huge reconstruction project downtown. Strategy planning, in his office at night, phone calls until the wee hours of the morning. It was always the same sentence when he got home: Logan is incredibly smart. And I, stupidly, would nod. Logan came over for dinner a couple times. He brought $100 bottles of wine, Lego sets for the twins. Eli and Harper loved him, even called him Uncle Lo. After dinner, we'd clean up the kitchen, pour 2 glasses of whiskey, and chat about sports, politics, the security industry. His questions always seemed smart: cybersecurity, customer engagement, surveillance systems. Later, I realized that every compliment was a query, every laugh a data collection. By 2019, Sienna's temperature had turned cold. Things I did made her uncomfortable: the way I loaded the dishwasher, my working hours, even the way I breathed in arguments. "Money isn't everything, Alec," she would say, her voice a measured vulnerability. "Family has to come first." His irony hurt me. I was working 70 hours a week to build that house, that school, that comfort. But he was focused on the outcome, not the process. He never thought of cutting costs. Vacations to Tuscany and the French Riviera continued as family therapy. While money was spent on handbags, plane tickets, and wine, I became the absentee father. Meanwhile, Logan completely collapsed into our lives. He was home on Saturday mornings with croissants and gourmet coffee. In the stadium at Eli's soccer games, behind the camera at Harper's dance performances. Sometimes he even helped put the kids to sleep, telling stories in different voices and making them laugh. From the outside, the picture was perfect. From the inside, an invasion. And me? Unfortunately, I let it happen. Because loyalty blinds, and trust is the most dangerous weapon ever pointed at its owner. By the end of 2019, the distance between us was no longer just emotional, it was as if a separate secret wall had been built inside the house. Sienna barely made eye contact with me anymore. Dinners were quiet, polite but robotic. We were 2 strangers who lived in the same house but whose hearts didn't beat together. Business trips increased: Aspen, Santa Fe, sometimes New York. All supposedly for networking. Every time she returned, a new piece of jewelry, a new scent. That scent did not belong to this house. "A gift from my new client," she would say with a sweet smile when I asked. "Try trusting me a little more, Alec." This sentence became his defense. Maybe I was just stressed. The company was making more money, the contracts were increasing, the nights were getting shorter. I was missing family dinners, but I was telling myself, now it's time to work, you can rest later. Then came the date, February 2020. I had solved the data leak of a tech giant in Seattle. I made $82,000 in 7 days. I was hoping for hugs, laughter, that "I'm home" feeling when I got home. Instead, I joined the strangers. Sienna was at the kitchen counter, working on her laptop, and without even looking up, she said, "Oh, welcome back." It was like I was the delivery guy. Eli and Harper looked up from their room, quiet and reserved. Normally they would have run out and yelled, "Daddy's home." That night they just waited. When I leaned in and hugged them, their bodies were solid muscle. Sienna's voice froze the air. "They're not used to you being here anymore, Alec. You're like a stranger in your own home." That sentence hit me like a punch in the ribs. That night, as I studied the woman lying next to me, I felt as if there were mountains between us. And I made a decision. I would no longer guess, I would know. 12 years of military intelligence leaves a mark in your blood. I returned to that mindset: observe, record, analyze. I started small. Sienna's MacBook Pro was on the kitchen counter every morning, upstairs in their room while I got the kids ready for school. I had 10 minutes at most. Most people think erase means to destroy. Actually, it doesn't. It just means to bury shallowly. I recovered browser caches, hidden folders, message archives. That's 8 months of deleted conversations. It lasted exactly 3 hours and 19 minutes. As the lines appeared on the screen, my stomach sank to the floor. It wasn't just messages. There were photos, posed in our bedroom in the underwear I had bought. And the recipient, Logan. Date, time, location. It was a map of betrayal like digital ink. But that wasn't the worst of it. There were paintings. Money transfers. Notes titled Asset Protection Plan. One line in particular made me freeze. Add post-custody psychological report. Establish control narrative early. They weren't just cheating. They were preparing to destroy me. I stared at the screen until the first light of day. Then I smiled for the first time in months, not from joy, but from clarity. They thought they were hunters. But they forgot one thing: the hunter knows as many tricks as the bear knows the way. Seeing the truth is both a curse and a weapon. Once you see it, you can't not see it again, and I was going to make my own story with the truth, without letting them finish it the way they wanted. The most important thing that 12 years of military intelligence taught me was this: never act until you know the target. That's why I mapped my battlefield first. Building a surveillance system for my own house, for my own wife. It was like a curse at first. But for the truth, it doesn't care about your discomfort, it just wants proof from you. If I was to protect my children and the life I had built, I needed to find evidence that shouted louder than their lies. I used the professional equipment of the Morgan Sentinel. I hid small 4K cameras behind ventilation hatches, inside smoke detectors, in the frames of family photos. I hid audio transmitters smaller than coins in Sienna's purse, in the glove compartment of her car, even in the decorative artificial flower in her bedroom. And I mounted a GPS tracker on the clasp of that expensive bracelet Logan bought, updating its location every 2 minutes. That bracelet, the symbol of betrayal, was to be my most loyal informant. Within 2 weeks, everything became clear. I had high-resolution images of Sienna and Logan in their hotel rooms, not just one hotel, but 3, Four Seasons Denver, the Broadmoor, Colorado Springs, and Hotel Teatro. I can still hear the whispers in the recordings. If Alec looks unstable, custody will be easy. He'll never notice. We'll move the funds shortly. They were destroying me as coldly and calculatingly as architects planning high-rise buildings. The more I analyzed it, the uglier it got. In emails between Sienna and her lawyer, I saw drafts of custody petitions that made me seem obsessive, cold, potentially dangerous. Every sentence was a bullet fired at the father of her children. Then came the detail that changed everything. One of Sienna's confidential folders is titled, Whitfield vs. State, 2012, Confidential. A case file signed by her own family. Curiosity overcame anger. I tracked it down in encrypted archives, government records, even through a journalist who owed me money. What I found made the betrayal take a back seat, it was that big. In 2012, Sienna's brother, Tyler Whitfield, was involved in a drunk driving accident that killed 4 people. The family, with their power and connections, hid it. Her mother, Judge Marion Whitfield, manipulated evidence. Her father silenced witnesses with money. Justice was silenced for money. And now I was the only outsider who knew this secret. At that point, my mission changed. It was no longer revenge, it was reversing the balance, it was exposure. I spent the next 3 weeks gathering documents. Financial transactions, court transcripts, campaign donations, audio recordings, even digital trails to secret offshore accounts. Every piece fit perfectly. The Whitfield family had corrupted justice, and now their daughter was continuing down the same path. For the first time in months, I felt at ease. I was no longer the prey. And when it would close harder than ever. 3 weeks later the phone rang. The voice on the other end was polished, professional. Mr. Morgan, this is Mr. Larson, Whitfield v. Pierce Family Law. We are representing your wife. It would be in everyone's best interest if we could talk privately before you take this matter to court. His tone was clear. Sure, I said, I'll see you. I went to Larson's office, 48th floor downtown, glass walls, mahogany furniture, expensive leather couches. The smell of power was everywhere. He shook my hand, as if celebrating a victory won without sitting down at the table. Mr. Morgan, your wife's demands are reasonable, he said, placing a large file in front of me. If you sign these documents, we can avoid an unpleasant lawsuit. I opened the file. Sienna wanted full custody, supervised visitation for me 1 weekend a month. The house, the cars, 60% of the company for about $1.6 million. Plus $9,000 a month in alimony for 15 years. They left me crumbs from the empire I'd built. Larson leaned back, crossed his fingers, his voice full of so-called understanding. Your wife has serious evidence of your instability. Your obsession with surveillance, your indifference to children, the traumas of your military past. Judges, especially her mother's colleagues, will be very impressed. What he didn't know was that every word that came out of his mouth was pouring gasoline on an already burning fire. Give this to your client, I said. Ask him to read it before deciding how far to go. He frowned. What is this? Reality dosage. I left before he opened it. The envelope had everything in it. Photos in hotel rooms, message chains, bank records, offshore account details. And the last document, the 2012 Whitfield scandal. Witness statements, money transfers, manipulated files, everything. 6 hours later, the phone rang. Sienna. Her voice was shaking. Alec, we need to talk. Now. No, Sienna. Everything to talk about is in that envelope. You don't understand what you're doing. My family would destroy you. Your family has already destroyed 4 people and buried the evidence. Talk to your mom about the Garza family, Elena, Miguel, Sofia and little Mateo. Ask her how much your father paid to save Tyler from going to jail. Silence. 30 seconds of silent breathing and panic. Then, what do you want? Justice. You withdraw the divorce petition now. I get full custody. Logan returns all the money and disappears from our lives. And your mother resigns before handing the file over to the FBI and the Denver Post. You're asking us to destroy our lives. First you tried to destroy mine. The difference is that everything I have is true. An hour later, the second call came in. Logan. His voice was no longer in that charismatic tone, he sounded like a cornered man. You're crazy, Alec. You're watching us, are you a pervert? I'm going to tell everyone who you are. Tell them, I said. But tell them how you transferred $350,000 into an offshore account, your fake mutual fund, your one-way ticket to Lisbon next week. I have your flight number, your account activity, your texts where you plan to steal the money and run. You can't prove it. I can prove everything. The only question is, do you want it in court or on the run for the rest of your life? The line went silent. The third call was from Judge Marion Whitfield. That strong, stern voice. Now it was broken. What exactly do you want, Alec? I told your daughter. Justice for the Garza family. Consequences for Tyler. And for you, your resignation. You want me to throw away my career, my reputation, everything. You already threw them away in 2012. I'm just bringing the truth to the surface. What if we don't accept it? Then Elena, Miguel, Sofia and Mateo's delayed justice will finally come. That night, for the first time in months, I slept well. Because the game had changed and this time I was the winner. When I woke up the next morning, I had 3 voicemails waiting for a new headline. The first was from Sienna, her voice hoarse from crying. The second from her lawyer, Larson, worried. The third was from an anonymous number, but I knew who it was, Logan. By the time I finished my coffee, the storm had started. At 6:48 a.m. Sienna called again, her voice breaking. Alec. Gone. Logan's gone. He took our accounts, the business fund, everything. He completely reset me. I checked the system, Logan's car wasn't in the garage, his phone was off. The only digital trace was to Denver Airport. I confirmed it within minutes. Logan had bought a one-way ticket to Lisbon the night before at 11:25 p.m. He'd panicked, packed his bags and fled. Sienna was still crying. Alec, please. I made a mistake, but we can fix it, we can be like we were. No, Sienna. You made a choice when you tried to bury me. Then I called someone else, Jake Mercer, my old Air Force buddy, now with the FBI Financial Crimes Unit. I sent him an encrypted file, bank records, offshore account numbers, flight information, digital traces. Within 6 hours, a federal court froze Logan's assets. 12 hours later an Interpol red notice was issued. 18 hours later he was arrested at Charles de Gaulle in Paris, just before boarding a Swiss connecting flight. Bad luck, wrong door. My breathing was much easier after a long time. And 2 weeks later Sienna and I were face to face again, same office, same desk, but the roles had changed. The woman sitting across from me was no longer the confident Sienna, she was disheveled, without makeup, her hands shaking. Just sign it, I said. She looked at the custody and property division papers like they were a death sentence. Alec, think about the kids. Eli, Harper. This will hurt them. I'm already thinking about them. That's why I'm doing this. Because there has to be a price for what you've done. He signed it. Every page, every line. I got full custody. He got $50,000 and his personal effects. Plus a written apology stating that he misinterpreted his wife's commitment to her family. 3 days later, Judge Marion Whitfield resigned under the pretext of health problems. Everyone who knew the truth understood why. The FBI reopened the Garza case. Tyler Whitfield was arrested for murder, obstruction of justice and destruction of evidence. The once untouchable Whitfield family cracked like glass. His father withdrew from politics, to be with the family. You know, to escape the investigation. Logan was extradited to the US 2 months later. He was tried for fraud, money laundering and embezzlement. He took a plea deal in exchange for 7 years in prison. Sienna lost everything. Reputation, job, friends. It was all over. She sold the car, cashed in her jewelry, moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in Aurora. Now she works as a secretary in a small real estate office. She makes $34,000 a year. She used to spend it on handbags in a month. Me? I was the real winner. I was the real winner. I have my kids. The house is breathing again. Eli's cleats at the door, Harper's glitter paint in the kitchen. Laughter echoes, this house is no longer a battlefield, but a home. I tuck them in every night. No more cameras, no more lies. Just stories and chocolate pancakes on Saturday morning. For the first time in years, I'm really here. Sometimes people ask, do you miss Sienna? What is the truth? Sometimes I miss who I thought he was, but not the real him. Mostly I am happy. Because this pain has taught me what is worth fighting for. Justice is not revenge. Revenge wants to hurt. Justice makes the right person pay the price. Logan counts the days in a jail cell. Sienna answers phones in an office. I coach the Cherry Creek Lions junior varsity team, and every weekend they show me what true victory is all about. Sometimes good people really do win. Sometimes patience outsmarts betrayal. And sometimes, just the truth is enough. 18 months have passed since everything fell apart. Sometimes I still expect the old silence when I wake up, the tension of the lie before it explodes. But then there's laughter from the hallway, the noise of my children, the mess, the sound of life. And I realized that peace is not silence. Peace is the absence of lies. You know the difference, right? Sometimes viewers write in the comments, "Did these stories really happen?" Let me tell you something, truth does not ask permission to be believable. I didn't tell you this story because I suffered. I told you this story to wake you up. Because awareness is an armor. When you stop paying attention, the wrong people start writing your story. If you are watching this video right now and you feel like something is not right, listen to that voice. Maybe a relationship, maybe a friendship, maybe a business partnership. Listen. Observe. Never underestimate the data your instinct gives you. Because ignorance is not innocence. It is surrender. I know now that justice is not about revenge. It's about balance. It's about showing my children that truth always wins, even when it hurts. And sometimes the best revenge is to be strong enough to never be broken again. Yes, sometimes good people really do win. Not because they're lucky, but because they never stop fighting for what matters. Thank you for staying with me through my story. If these words touched you, if they stirred something in you or made you reflect on your own journey, I ask only 3 small things. Like the video so others can find it. Leave a comment, share your story, or simply tell me what struck you the hardest. Subscribe because more stories are coming, and you won't want to miss what's ahead.